Practice should be a fun and enjoyable thing. However, so often students don't really understand how they should be practicing. And it's no wonder, because unless you were actually taught how to practice, you can't be expected to magically know what to do in this precious time. So today I'm going to walk you through some of the most common practice mistakes that I see students make that really slows them down and prevents them from making meaningful progress on this instrument. Hi everyone, my name is Tatiana and this is the Flute Practice, a space to help you on your flute learning journey. We're passionate here about helping you learn how to practice well so that you can find more joy in your playing and make meaningful progress. Okay, let's dig into our first big practice mistake, which is playing through a piece over and over again. Maybe this sounds a little bit like you get ready to practice, you stand in front of your music stand, you're not really sure what to do, so you just play through your piece from beginning to end, usually fairly badly with a whole bunch of mistakes. It feels pretty horrible, it feels really unproductive. You get to the end, you wonder, well, what do I do now? And you just start playing through it all over again. You do this a few times, you look at your watch, you check, you think, okay, I've done like 10 minutes, that's pretty good for now. And you either move on to the next thing or you pack it away and you stop. Now, if this is you, I don't blame you. This is such a normal response and I see it so commonly with students. But rather than playing through your piece over and over again, we want to do something completely different. We rather want to break up your piece into small little bite-sized chunks, whether you're learning the notes, so you're just kind of figuring out what the notes are on that page, or whether you're practicing and polishing up specific sections of the music, you want to prevent yourself from just playing through from beginning to end. In fact, I encourage my students to almost never do this. You should never ever just play through your piece from beginning to end, with the exception of a couple of really important moments, such as when you're practicing performing the piece, then you're going to want to play through from beginning to end. Or you might play through from beginning to end or play through bigger sections of the music to check where the problems are, to diagnose any issues in the music, to figure out kind of where you're at and get a temperature check. The point is, when you play it through, you have a very clear goal and purpose as to why you're doing that. Now, maybe you know you shouldn't play things through from beginning to end, and you're now practicing in smaller sections, but you're doing the next really big mistake, which is you're just playing through passages mindlessly over and over and over again. So you might be playing through a section over and over like this again and again. So I just play it over and over and over and over again and hope magically that something's going to change. Well, I have news for you, friends. It's not going to change. I mean, it might eventually, but there is actually a much more efficient and effective way to do this. And that is, we want to think of very specific targeted practice tools to help us solve that specific technical issue. And the first question we have to ask ourselves is, what is the actual problem there? What is really going wrong? In my particular case, there's a really nasty little fingerings and my fingers tend to get a bit tied up. So I'm going to search for a very specific practice tool to help me solve that particular problem. And we have actually created a practice toolbox, a kind of cheat sheet of practice ideas to help you solve really specific technical issues. We've dropped a link to that lovely resource down below. Go click on the link, go sign up for our mailing list. That's all we ask of you. Get some extra lovely motivation into your inbox directly and get our wonderful practice toolkit. So going back to our example, I might decide to practice it in rhythms, for example. Or and so on and so forth. Or perhaps I would practice it really slowly, checking the quality of my finger movement. I might decide to play it with a metronome really slowly and build it up faster and faster. There are actually a lot of really cool tools you can use, but the point is, I'm not just mindlessly repeating it. Your brain's going to switch off really fast. Your brain's going to get bored and tired and it's going to shut down, switch off, and you really do not want it to do this. The next big common mistake that students make is that they panic practice. And what do I mean by panic practice? Well, sometimes it's time-bound, so you have a lesson coming up or a rehearsal coming up, and suddenly you start in a mindless panic, kind of, I've got to play that, I've got to get that. Now that's an extreme case, but it happens. But it's when we have the sense of anxiety and stress and pressure, we're usually playing too fast. We're usually playing it over and over again mindlessly. And we really want to make sure we do not get into this panic practice. Practice needs patience and it needs time and intelligent work. Those are the words of Marcel Moyes. Time, patience, and intelligent work. But the patience and the time part are really crucial and important. Now, what I sometimes see students do is, okay, they've broken up their piece into sections. Hey, they've even mindfully practiced things with little practice tools. And then they get to the end of their practice session and suddenly they try and do it fast in a panic because they want to check if they can do it now. And usually, honestly, guys, you end up undoing all the lovely, calm, slow, thoughtful, mindful work that you've done. Do not, I repeat, do not allow yourself to go into panic practice. At no stage, whether that is your whole practice or whether you just slip into it right at the end of some really good practice, you are undoing the work you've done. Don't do it. Big mistake I see students make is practicing without a clear goal or purpose. Now, many of the things we've spoken about already have already got that element in it of really finding a clear goal or purpose. But I think we can take our goals and our purpose a little step further. In fact, I never engage in a practice session without a clear goal in mind. For example, in my warm-up routine, if I'm warming up, I'm getting everything going, I'm focusing on just getting my tone going, I'm focusing on releasing body tension, just kind of checking in and feeling where I'm at. So yes, there, I, in a sense, let my mind go a little bit more because I know it's a warm-up. But if I'm practicing a piece of music, I have a very specific idea of what I want to achieve. So, okay, I want to fix this section today. I want to learn these notes today. I want to practice playing it through for performance practice today. What is your goal that you want to achieve in that practice session before you get into it? Don't just make it up as you go. I promise you, you're wasting your precious practice time. And usually you're going to land up in one of the other mistakes like panic practicing or mindless practice or playing things through from beginning to end. So have a clear goal or purpose before you launch into any single practice session. Of course, even better is to have bigger goals that you're working towards. So maybe you need to improve your articulation or your tone, or you want to learn a specific level of repertoire in a specific time frame. These are really good to have, and they really help to streamline our practice and kind of drive us towards a really specific point. Hand in hand with your goal is practicing without a plan. Now, the goal is the achievable, the thing that you are moving toward, and the plan is how you're going to get there. What are you going to do to get there? Because even if you have a really good, clear goal, you know what you want to achieve, if you don't actually have an idea of how to get there, you're probably again going to be flailing around like a headless chicken. And we don't want headless chickens. We want thoughtful human beings that are getting a lot of joy and meaning out of this instrument. Now, we have actually put a lot of time and energy into helping you plan your practice well. We're going to drop a video link down below to help you do this. And our practice toolbox that I mentioned a moment ago actually has some helpful planning tools in there as well for you. And I'm also going to tell you at the end of this video a little bit more about our 2024 practice journal that I really believe is going to help you to plan your practice well for the coming year. Maybe a mistake that you haven't really considered. Maybe you have. Maybe you've been around here long enough to know that I shout this from the hilltops because it's so important. But a big mistake I see students make is that they practice without breaks. Oh my goodness, I cannot emphasize how important this point is. You need to be taking breaks. Not just bigger breaks in your year and in your month, which are important, even in your week. I love to take a day off in the week and encourage my students to do the same, but also breaks during your practice time. So for example, you're playing maybe 20 minutes, 15 minutes even, maybe even just 10 minutes, and then force yourself to take a break. And there are a couple of really good reasons for this. The first really important reason is it allows your brain to just rest a moment, to kind of recalibrate, and it actually helps you to focus on your practice much better. This, again, is going to ensure that you don't end up in that mindless practice. Your brain is more fresh. It's more able to think and problem solve. And all you really need is to take regular breaks and allow it that space. It's also really good for your body. It allows your body to recover from the practice. I'm not going to get into a huge amount of details, but the way that our tendons and our muscles are designed are that after a certain amount of time, they just take strain and they need a little bit of downtime to just recover. So what you will notice is as you're practicing, you're going, and then there's this kind of critical point where things start to get worse and worse and worse again. And that is because you have gone past the point where you should have taken a break. As you're reaching the top of that bell curve and it's getting better and better and better, then you want to take a break. Do it before it starts getting worse and worse, because again, you're actually going to start going backwards. You're probably going to start that panic practicing. You're going to get frustrated. You're going to get angry. And all you needed, my dear friends, was to take a break. So take a break. Another one that I have often shouted from the hilltops again and again, this is kind of connected to panic practice in a way, but I'm going to make it its own point because it's so important, which is to practice too fast, too soon, or just practice too fast in general. Students sometimes ask me, how long should I be playing something slowly? And my answer is, as long as it takes. Seriously, as long as it takes. I have never, ever encountered a student that was struggling with a passage that by playing it faster and faster and faster magically fixed the problem. Well, that's not true. There's some very rare cases where that is actually true, but usually you just need to play it slowly for as long as possible. Playing slowly helps us to really figure out what we're doing. It allows us to pick up patterns of tension. It allows us to see where the actual problems are. It allows our brain time to think. The most important thing, think. Really be able to consider what the problem is, how we can solve it, and really feel what we are doing. Never mind that, much like a computer, our brain can only process information at a certain speed. And when we are learning notes or we're figuring out tricky passages, we just have to work with our brains and go at the speed that it can manage. Otherwise, again, you're going to land up in that mindless panic practice space. Waste of time, waste of energy, and highly frustrating. I'm guessing. Very, very frustrating. So if you're asking yourself the question, am I practicing slow enough? Probably not. Practice slower. Another really big mistake students make is that they practice with a negative mindset. This might sound silly, but I cannot tell you how much of your practice is done here, in your brain. I mean, hopefully, looking at this list, you can see how crucial your mind is to this process. There's a saying that says what you practice sticks, and what you mentally rehearse is going to stick. So if you're practicing and you're beating yourself up at every turn, telling yourself how bad you are, it sounds so terrible, how can you play like this is awful playing, this is terrible, and kind of running with that, I promise you that is what's going to stick. You're going to get to a performance, and guess what your brain's going to start to tell you? You're bad. You're terrible. You can't do this. I guarantee it. And not only is it going to say it, it is going to start shouting it. I've said this before in a video and I'll say it again. What you whisper in practice, you shout in performance. So please, no negative thoughts allowed during a practice. And this doesn't mean that you have to shut down all those negative thoughts. Sometimes it's a question of just noticing them, hearing them, and again, asking yourself the question, oh, that's interesting. Why? Why do I feel like I need to say that about myself? Why do I think that? Why do I believe that? Do I really believe that? A student of mine said something so powerful and meaningful a little while ago. She said, imagine that we spoke to other people the way that we speak to ourselves. Like imagine we said that to our children or our families or our spouses or even our pets for that matter. Imagine we actually spoke to other people in the same way. And I think what we'll find is if we really examine some of the thoughts that we have, we probably would be horrified if we had to speak to someone else like that. So I want to encourage you, check your thoughts, check what's going on up here. It's powerful and it's meaningful. Now, if you want a tool to help you with your practice and really guide and direct your practice, well, you're going to want to get your hands onto our practice journal. We've dropped a link down below for you to check out, but this is an all-in-one space for you to plan your practice, set your goals, plus get a whole bunch of my extra tips and tricks to help you along the journey. We're just about to launch our 2024 journal. We've dropped links down below and I'm so excited to share this with you. If you need a little more help with your practice planning, there is a wonderful video right over here that I'm going to encourage you to go and check out, all about how to create an awesome, amazing practice plan. Happy practicing and see you guys next time.